Hey, how's it
Hi,
going?
how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Everybody, welcome to RoseNthorn Talk, episode 8. My name is Aaron Marshall Clark, and my special guest today is guitarist, vocalist, drummer, podcast host, video producer, all this at the age of 12. His name is Gregory Hyman, but he goes by GMH Rocks. How you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Fantastic. Thanks for coming on the show today. So,
You're welcome.
we're going to go through the ins and outs on how you started in music, your inspirations, what your plans are moving forward. And it's
Awesome.
going to be fascinating. I know it. So, again, thanks for joining on the show. I really appreciate it. So, the origins of your name, let's talk about that first. When did you come up with it? And what's the story behind it, really?
Like the GMH rocks.
Yeah.
So, um, people have always sort of called me GMH because those are my initials, and
Right?
a lot of people just like family, friends just call me GMH. And basically, when I was in grade three, I decided to start a new YouTube channel.
Nice.
Um, and I was really struggling with coming up for a name. And my dad's just like, well, why don't you call it GMH Rocks if you're going to be doing music tutorials and stuff?
Right.
And I'm like, sure, why not? So um, I called it GMH Rocks. I switched between GMH Rock, just GMH Rocks. But it all just became sort of like a nickname.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess the rocks part doesn't have a lot of meaning. I guess it just has to do with music and um, my initials, Gregory Marshall Hyman. Um, oh, wait, is your middle name Marshall?
Right? See, I was
Yeah,
I knew we were gonna have that conversation sooner or later today. Yeah, it's Aaron Marshall Clark. So I was
yeah,
gonna say it's similar. You beat me to the punch, but that's fine. That's similar scenario.
yeah.
I spent
So,
many years trying to figure out my stage name for singing and for emceeing, and then long story short, it came down with well, AMC, Aaron Marshall Clark is the most logical and relevant, right? So
yeah. So I just went with GMH Rocks, and then it came down to starting to perform, and I haven't yet this year because of COVID, but I was doing busking at the Forks.
yeah,
Um, And when I was deciding what name I wanted to go by, I'm just like, why don't I try out GMH Rocks to see how that goes?
yeah.
So I went with that, and it seemed to work. And then when it came to, and when it came down to like performing a little bit, I'm like, why don't I just try GMH Rocks? So it seemed to work, and I guess I just really liked it, and I decided to stick with it.
Oh, absolutely. It totally works, and I can relate to that just based on my initials and how it's used in everyday use, right? Just for the audience to be a little bit more aware, what does busking mean? Like when you go to the forks, I'm aware of
Yeah.
it. Explain a little bit more.
So basically, what happened was when I was in my family goes to Clear Lake sometimes in the summer. We don't have a cottage there, but we'll either rent or stay in a hotel. Anyways, so I realized one year that they had bus stops there, and busking is basically it's kind of like street performing.
Right.
Um, and I decided that I would get a pass for that 1 week. So what I did is I went down and I auditioned, and I got a busking pass. And I loved it so much because I had about like a 45-minute set list of covers at the time. So I would just go and play, and it was outside. My family could watch, and I just found it to be super fun. And then we found out when we came back, we found out that the Forks was also offering busking. Um, so immediately I went onto their website and I registered for a pass. And that's sort of how it all started because I guess I met a lot of people at the Forks because a lot of people go there, so I was able to meet other buskers, people who work there, other musicians, um, and I just kept on playing because I loved it. I would just bring my acoustic guitar and start singing covers, and then it went from a 45-minute set of covers to like an hour and a half set list of like covers, and I started writing too, so I had a few originals, and people just loved it. I would play um, a lot of Canadian music. I'd play a lot of like classic rock tunes, and it was so cool because I felt like I was able to draw an audience almost like I was playing a concert.
For
But I was really just sitting down on a bench at the Forks.
Yeah, in a comfort zone, and also being able to
Yeah,
interact, that helps to build not only character but build an audience as well. Now, you
yeah.
were classically trained with violin, is that correct? And that's how you got your start into music
Um,
instruments?
so I started by being classically trained on the classical guitar,
Ah,
with my teacher David Lecuman, and then what happened was, I'm still taking lessons with him now, but I
excellent.
also decided to pick up the violin because my grandfather told me that he thought I would really like it. So I
Yeah,
played it for, actually, I this was my first year not doing it. I took it with Daria Watkin,
right.
and she really helped me with my understanding of music and the violin. I just decided that I would stop this year because I had a little bit more musical knowledge, and I
Right.
thought I would move on by maybe learning some more instruments and focusing on my main instruments.
Wow. So, what age were you when you started playing classical on the guitar? On the guitar?
I was in kindergarten, so I was about like I was 5 probably in the first month, and then I was 6. So I liked it because my teacher at the time I didn't really know the difference between like different types of guitar playing. Um, so I basically loved it because my teacher would teach me like different like songs like Mary Had a Little Lamb, all that stuff, and then it went from
Yeah.
that to learning to starting to read music,
Mm.
and that has helped me so much because that's the only guitar lessons that I've really taken, and it's helped me so much with a knowledge for music, and it's helped me with everything in music, honestly.
Yeah.
Um, and I really liked my teacher. I really like him, and we have similar music tastes because he's also into, rock music and stuff. So I was able to learn like fingerstyle pieces.
Right.
For example, I just finished learning like Blackbird by the Beatles and all that stuff. So it's
Wow.
definitely very fun to get a classical and professional training, um, to help me with all the other stuff.
Oh, absolutely. Now, with family members, any of your family members play any instruments? And if not, what was their reaction when in kindergarten you started being able to play instruments?
So my family is not musical at all.
Okay.
Um, my grandfather might have played music when he was younger, but my family's really not musical. But my parents always wanted me to be involved in music, so um, I listened to a bunch of music. So I have a CD player, and I basically listen to a different CD every single night. And my parents would get me listening to at night like um, Rockabye Baby, those CDs where they're like bands. So I would listen to like the Metallica Rockabye Baby and Guns N' Roses Rockabye Baby or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Um, and it just really like I loved it, and I just kept on listening to it, and then it went to actually listening to a lot of more CDs where I'd be listening to like rock music literally as I'm sleeping, and I'd wake up the next morning and I'd be like, and I would just start listening to all these bands. And my grandfather always wanted me to pick up an instrument and sing and stuff like that. So he was the one who actually got me my first guitar. Um, I asked for it for Hanukkah, and he brought it, and I was so excited. And literally the next day, I was already signed up for lessons. That's how excited I was. Um, and I think I just had the interest for it. That helped. Like before I really started taking lessons, I would pick up the guitar
Mhm.
and just like play around with it because I was so interested to play with it. Um, and then uh, after I started like singing and playing guitar at the same time, I started voice lessons just last year, which really helped my technique to be able to um, help me, sing anything almost.
Excellent. It really is a fascinating journey so far, and it's really only just begun, but there's so much
Yeah.
you've covered in a few years. It really is amazing. Now, are you in band in school as well? Like, or do you do this separate? And if so, how do you differentiate between what you're learning with your teachers outside of school, and if you are in band, what you're learning there?
Okay, so my school does have a band program,
Hmm.
and I was in that. I played the tuba this year,
Okay.
um, which was pretty awesome. But it
Yeah.
was definitely I had to learn a lot because being a guitar player and playing violin in the past, I had only read treble clef, but I
Huh?
had to learn how to read bass clef,
Yeah.
which helped because I was able to learn a little bit of stuff on the piano. Anyway, so
Mhm.
um, playing tuba was really fun because I got to back up the band, and I almost felt like the band's bassist, but we were like a concert band.
Right.
So it was a really cool experience, and I definitely like went on with the tuba to take lessons for just a portion of the year to get a little bit better.
Right.
And then I'd talk to my teacher a lot. Unfortunately he's leaving the school this year, but
Yeah.
um, he was just very helpful. And I was able to like go up to him and ask him, "Hey, what songs could I learn that are further on in the book that you haven't taught us yet?" And that just really helped me with my understanding of music. It's similar to what I was saying about classical lessons. Um, Being able to learn like little tuba bass lines has helped me like with writing and all that stuff as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. So even though you may be parting with the school, hey, you can always stay in contact, and it's from the sounds of it, you've
Yeah,
learned a lot already, and already I can tell you're willing to experiment with other instruments and not being shy and saying, well, this is a brass instrument. Because when I was in marching band in school, I was in marching band for about 6 years, middle school,
yeah,
high school. I was mostly brass instruments myself. Really not by choice. I enjoyed it. I'm a
yeah,
left-hander, so I really wanted to play guitar, but the town
yeah,
I was in is really small, about 15,000 people, so it was very limited to the amount of access to guitar or
yeah,
drum teachers. But it is what it is. I still enjoy playing trumpet and French horn and such. But I hear what you're saying when backing up a band and having those vocal points where you have instructors. Uh,
yeah,
it'll help you out a lot. Now, we're going to switch
yeah.
gears a little bit. We're going to talk about the video My Room that came
Mhm.
out it was a few weeks ago. Tell us about that, what that experience is like. And were you producing that video yourself?
Yeah, so with the whole album and music videos, I was really going for the DIY and like the do it
Ah,
yourself
I hear
because I basically wrote every song on the album, played every instrument on it, and recorded it and produced it. So I was really like, why don't I just film my own music video? So I decided to not do a lot of effects, and I grabbed my my SG, and I was down here in my basement, which is like my studio with all my instruments and stuff. Um, so basically, do you know the wrestler Chris Jericho from Winnipeg?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so he has a band called Fozzy.
Yes.
They're not my favorite band, but I saw them live, and their video for their song Judas, what they did is they were inspired. I watched the behind the scenes video. They were inspired by Guns N' Roses video, Garden of Eden, and basically they fil- they took the song and put it to half speed.
Uh,
So, for example, instead of 4 minutes, it was 8 minutes long, and then they basically shot the video, and then they sped it up in a video editor.
right.
Um, so that's what I did, and it was able to make myself look very jumpy. Um, so I was moving faster than my guitar and the song was, which looked really cool. And I was gonna add in more parts, but I'm just like, I'm gonna leave it. Like, there's not. I didn't feel like I was able to necessarily add a theme to this song. There's other songs that I might make videos for. But this one, I'm like, why don't I just set up, like clean up the basement a little bit and just
Yeah.
do it in front of the drum set,
Mhm.
and then there was like one part because it basically speeds it up. So I hit the cymbal with my fist,
Right.
and it looked like I was hitting it 10 times harder. So I was just really going for that do it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I've done the same. I was in a hip hop R&B group a couple years ago, and long story short, that's exactly what we did. We filmed
Yeah,
the first video in my buddy's basement, and
yeah,
it totally worked out for the theme of the song and everything.
oh
And
yeah,
DIY when you can do it. I'm a big proprietor. I endorse that a lot, and I feel
Yeah,
that the way we learn how to do things on our own as well. So that's fantastic. And
yeah,
we'll talk more about where we can find the video and all that jazz in a bit. Now, I read an interesting article. It was in the just looking at some footnotes here in the Jewish Post, and it
yeah.
was regarding your album Basement, available now on all major streaming platforms, by the way. And it got into a bit of detail on how um, Bernie Ballin got into some detail and got in contact with Mom and why you were dubbed the one-man band. So tell us why you are. You kind of touched base with it, a little bit more detail when Bernie was talking to Mom about you being the one-man band from her perspective, what that looked like.
Yeah, so Bernie actually reached out to me, which was really cool because he got to hear. I was literally on the phone with him for an hour. He had to shorten down the interview because I
Oh
had
yeah,
so much to say. So I basically was talking more specifically about the album Basement, um, which I called it Basement because that's where I recorded it. Anyways, I was. Uh, oh yeah, so the one man band.
yes,
Um, so I got an acoustic guitar a few years ago. I'd had electric and I'd had a classical, but I got my first acoustic guitar, which is my favorite. So I would just write songs on that. And then when it came to recording, I would take out a pen and paper and write down some drum notations, some different keyboard and bass stuff. Um, and essentially, I just wanted it to. The thing that I liked is I can spend as much or little time on it as I want because I was working on it myself.
right,
Um, so I think I record a little bit differently because I'm a guitar player. I will
right.
actually track guitars first, and I find it easier personally as a guitarist. That's just how I work, but
Right.
it worked for me, and I was able to. Some songs it was harder than I thought. I thought, oh, I could just put drums in, but some songs I spent as much as an hour just writing drum parts to it.
Mhm.
Um, but I definitely want to go for the one man band thing. The only thing about the one man band is that when I'm performing live, I need like people to play with.
Right.
So like a live band. So I started assembling that a little while ago.
Yeah,
We haven't practiced together yet because of COVID, but I've asked them to learn certain things.
absolutely.
Um, and I got a few friends in that band, so we're gonna try and hopefully after this I can perform with a whole band, which was my goal in the end. But I definitely want to keep on recording, playing all the instruments.
How is the vetting? How is the selection process for members, and how many are there currently potentially for the band?
There are, let's see, um, one, two. There's four members. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, there's four, including me.
Right.
Um, so basically, what happened was I reached out to um, my friend from Instagram and just like local music, Wakim Chochinov, and I said, "Hey, do you play bass?" And I'm like, "I kind of need a bassist because I originally just wanted to start off with three, me, a bass player, and a drummer." And
Right.
then um, Nathan Canada reached out to me and he's like, "Hey, I could do drums." So
Right.
that was going well. I sent them acoustic tracks, and this was before I released the album.
Right.
Um, so I sent them some tracks to play along to practice. And then Nathan was he's also working with other bands, so he decided that he wouldn't be able to make a full commitment, so he dropped out. So what happened was um, I got this drummer named Lucas, and I was sort of happy with it, but I wanted a little bit of a change, and I wanted to be working with musicians who I really knew. Um, so I talked to Lucas, and I ended up switching my drummer
Right.
again to a friend who I've played with a little bit, and he also goes to my school named Rayhan Hossein. Um, so I was able to and he's also a very talented drummer, and he can really play anything. So I had a three piece, and then Wakeem started talking with Rayhan, and then he's like, um, a lot of your songs include acoustic parts and solos and stuff. And he's like, would it be easier if I played lead guitar and you got a new bass player? And I'm like, sure. So I reached out to Leo Herstein, who I thought played bass, but he didn't. And he said that he would get one, and he's also a very talented guitar player. So I'm like,
Right.
sure, I'll try that. So I've been sending them stuff, and we're putting together a set of originals and of course a few covers for fun. And it seems to be going pretty well. They're all nice guys, and I sort of know all of them.
Right. I do know Joaquin. Shout outs to Joaquin as well. I've performed in the same concerts as him last year a few times. So yeah, shout outs to him as well. So growing up as a youth in Generation Z, of course, I'm Generation X. I'm in my 40s. So you're Generation Z. Now, technology is at your fingertips, right? You grew into it. It's ingrained in you. You have it at your disposal. Now, do you find interaction on social media any different than when you're out bunking, like how you were at Clear Lake and how you were at the Forks? Do you find any different interactions with people online, fans, fellow musicians, as you would in person?
Yeah, well, I use Instagram a lot to communicate. So instead of texting, I normally DM people.
Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like I like to talk with people in person
Yeah.
because it's easier to see how they're feeling. And sometimes, like, somebody will write me something and they're meaning it to be sarcastic, but you don't get that from like a message, which is kind of funny. But so basically, that's why I've been trying to get as interactive as I can so that they're at least seeing me. So I paused for a little while to focus on promoting and writing music, but once COVID started, I was doing a live stream almost every Tuesday where I would just set up like a little area over here, and I would play my guitar and sing. I set up a microphone and stuff. And the first one, I literally got like 30 people watching like at a time, which was so cool. Because that's what people are wanting right now. Like, they want to see stuff like that, and it's as close to a concert as it can really get. So I did that for a little while, and then I started jamming with other people. But I definitely, I feel like I have been very social though, because I also interview people for my podcast, Talkin' Rock with GMH.
Right.
So when I interview musicians, I definitely, it's really cool because I get to hear their stories, but at least I'm talking to them in person, which is the goal. And even just like, I was like with Joaquin, we were planning to do a little live stream. We stopped planning it for a little while, but I think we're going to get back to that. We're planning on doing a little live stream, like jam session in my backyard. So I was even like, hey, do you want to just Skype and talk about it? Because like talking to people in person right now is the best.
Oh, absolutely.
So I definitely have been using social media a lot, and even with like trying to post on Instagram often so that my friends know what I'm up to and I can hear from them and stuff.
Oh, that's the way to go, and that's the way to utilize it at its best. That's for sure. Now, what type of festivals are you interested in moving forward, albeit right after COVID or a few years from now? What sparks your interest in say, hey, you know what, myself or my band would like to play at one of these? Anywhere in the world, doesn't have to be in the Winnipeg area, just anywhere. Anything that you
like just like playing anywhere or playing at a festival specifically?
Both, playing anywhere or at a festival specifically. Could be anywhere in the world. Could be Glastonbury or it could be Folk Fest. It could be whatever you feel that, hey, you know what? Interesting.
I'm not so sure. But I definitely, just performing in general, like after this, I definitely want to get shows booked regularly, like at Bulldog Pizza and stuff like that. Because for a kid under 18, that's in my opinion the easiest place to perform.
Absolutely.
Yeah, shout out to them.
Shout out to them.
Definitely there, but also I would like to play with a bunch of other bands, like either opening for them or doing like a little show with them. And even like I want to reach out after this or in the future. I want to reach out to the Forks to see if I can actually play on their stage there.
Nice.
to try and get. But yeah, I would definitely love to look into like different events or festivals,
Mhm.
like even if it's at like the Park Theater or something like that.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty cool. Um, but I wasn't at the beginning. I wasn't before this happened. When I just started playing, I was just doing a lot of busking. I've only done really one show,
Right.
um, but I started learning more about being a local musician and just trying to learn what I can do. So definitely after this, I plan to perform as often as I can. But I mean, I definitely want to put practicing with my band first. So that'll be the first step, and then they are all very talented musicians, so I feel like we'll be able to start really playing together pretty solidly um, soon after we start playing.
Absolutely. And communication will be the key, such as life, to everybody being on the same page and having the same vision for what an album or what a song, for example, or a video
Yeah.
would sound or look like. No, that's fantastic. Now, when it comes down to your friends, your support group, your support staff, so to speak, that aren't musicians, friends that have observed this happen over the past few years, what is their reaction to all of this?
Okay, so um,
Yeah.
so I guess I have a lot of friends from school
Yeah.
who know that I'm musical,
Mhm.
but at the beginning it was just, hey, I have a friend who plays guitar. But it was
Right.
so funny, like once I dropped the album, I'd put it in our like group chat on iMessages and stuff, and they'd just be like, "Oh, that's so cool," and it'd
Yeah.
just be so funny. And then like at the end of, because we had to move to online classes
Right.
for school, so
Mhm.
they're just like it started being like at the end of online classes, "Hey, Gregory, are you gonna play us something?" Um, so I definitely found that they were very supportive, some more than others for sure, and I'm
Yeah.
definitely closer with a lot more friends. And then like a lot of people just listen to it and they randomly message me and they're like, "Gregory, your album is great," and I'm like, and I didn't even recognize the number, and I'm like, "Thank you," but like just getting it was just like about promoting it. Like I'd literally look through all my contacts and tell them. And then of course I have the friends who I don't go to school with. So like my friends that I would go to camp with,
Right.
um, who I'm also very very close with. So for example, shout out if they're watching, my friend Jacob Dimmerman. Um, for example, I would definitely like share a lot of stuff about them, and I definitely have a close relationship with some of those friends that. So okay, so I have a story to tell.
Absolutely.
Have you listened to the song on my album 7 Days?
7 days I have heard, yes.
Okay, so um, basically, so me and my friends go to this camp called B'nai Camp. It's in Lake of the Woods. So one year, my friend Jacob, he just came over and we filmed a little video. It was kind of I wasn't so good at guitar. Like we weren't very musical at the time.
Okay.
And we just like played the main riff to Smoke on the Water, and he played it on piano. And then I'm like, hey, we should start a band. So
Wow.
what happened was when we got, I just commented on the post, and he thought, so when we got to the docks ready to get onto the boat to head over to camp,
Right.
he's like, hey, do you actually want to start a band? And I'm like, sure. And then he's actually, I think he might have stopped, but he's a very talented piano player. And at the time I was just playing a lot of classical stuff, not a lot of chords. I hadn't really learned chords and stuff at the time.
Hmm.
So it was like taking songs that were really easy to play and just playing them. And
Right.
then what happened is my friend Aaron is like, hey, I could sing in your band. So he had like a little three-piece, and it was just kind of funny. Um, and we really only knew one song,
Right.
Knocking on Heaven's Door. Um, and we would literally just play, we would play like at camp, and it was just really fun. Um, and it helped with the friendship.
Absolutely.
And we were better, like, it was really the friendship more than the band.
Yeah.
Um, so we went with the name 7 Days. I don't really. There were like a lot of different reasons for that name. So
Right.
I decided to write a song about that. But those are definitely some of my very close friends, and they're always like have supported my music and stuff. Like I always appreciate. I normally put on my Instagram before I go busking and on my story, and it's always so often awesome to see friends or like family friends like actually come to the Forks to come and watch me, which like meant a lot because it was just like it was just playing acoustic stuff in front of whoever was there.
Right. And it's building confidence and it's showing support. It's so many things. And that's amazing that thank you for sharing that story behind 7 days. I had no idea that's what it was about, but that's why I asked that question the way
Yeah,
so that you can elaborate on it. But see, that's just it. Whether you continue in a band format with your friend or not, you still have that memory to share. And it's always going to be with you. So that's
yeah.
fantastic, JMH. So regarding instruments, we're talking earlier about all the instruments you do play. What's next for you to learn?
So I started working on some piano. I took piano lessons last year. They didn't help that much because I missed a lot of lessons based on the day that they were because of holidays and days off and stuff. So
Right.
I really found myself teaching myself chords on the piano,
Wow.
and I'm not so good with the piano reading music, but I definitely have an ear for it. So I was able to learn like if this shape is a chord, then this shape must also be a chord. So I was just trying to do a lot of that, and it's definitely I want to work on that. There's a few songs that I can play on the piano. One is a cover, and then one is just a piano-only song off my album, Once Again.
Just waiting.
I just kind of want to build my music knowledge by just listening to a lot of music and playing as many instruments as I can. There's some instruments that I've tried that I just haven't really played a lot. Like for example, in grade 5 as part of the curriculum to learn ukulele. I
Nice.
definitely like the sound of it, but I didn't find myself to be very good at it. But just definitely getting that knowledge to be
Are you
able.
gonna give it? Are you gonna tackle it again though? Even though you're not good at it now, it doesn't mean
Yeah,
you won't be
I
good
think
at
I'm
it in
gonna
the
start
future.
learning more.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I think I'm definitely gonna start learning more, and I definitely want to
Guitar.
pick up. I definitely want to improve a little bit on the bass. I do not own a bass guitar, so I had to rent when I was recording and stuff like that.
Okay.
But I feel like that would really help with
Ooh, absolutely.
especially the one-man band part.
Right. Well said at the one-man band part, so that when you do, you can and then implement it into a band, you'll be able
Yeah.
to have someone in the band being able to play that as well, but you can cover it when you need to. No, that's a great approach. Excellent approach, actually. So thanks
Yeah.
for sharing that. Now, did your songwriting, performing opportunities increase or evolve, let's say, during COVID? Have you found yourself writing more, playing more
So
than
I haven't.
beforehand? And has it been beneficial?
It's helped a little bit of both.
Okay.
So right now, I haven't really written anything for. I just wrote my first song for about like a month the other day.
Okay.
But I was struggling with writing because I kind of got all my ideas out because 3 of the songs on the album um, were really just written in the recording process because
Okay.
I needed more songs, and they were all good songs anyway. 7 Days being one of them.
Right.
And I thought, so basically I was just writing a lot and I had a bunch of different ideas. But yeah, I definitely pick up the guitar, and I have like 5 different guitar parts sitting um on my laptop that I'll probably work with eventually.
Okay.
But for now I've sort of just left them. I've done a little bit of writing with other people and
Oh, nice.
doing some collabs with other people, but that's mainly it.
Okay. Tell us a little bit more about the collabs in general. Like,
So
what's that like?
I don't want to say too much because I'm not
Okay.
100% sure where it's going. It's just
Right.
sort of jamming right now. But I have
Okay.
a friend, but I met him because he works for my mom, but he's also like a super cool guy. His name's Mitchell McCausland.
Okay.
Um, anyways,
Yeah.
although like he used to play in like a metal band and stuff, he is very musically talented and a very good songwriter, and he has a great voice. So me and him just started jamming acoustically, and I've shown a few songs to him,
Nice.
and I basically just want to playing with other people is like I've been playing with him on Zoom, which with
Yeah.
two people actually works decently well.
Right.
So I've been really just trying to play with a bunch of people and show them my stuff. Like for example, he was telling me like he was showing me some of his songs, and he's like, it's still my song, but I'm gonna bring it to other people to get their feedback,
Of course.
which is definitely something that I want to do as well. So bringing songs, sending like a little voice memo to a friend and being like, hey, do you like this? What should I change?
Right.
That sort of stuff. So just like working on my art and trying to work on songwriting. With songwriting, I'm generally good. I'm generally pretty good with the music, but I've definitely gotten better because I've had more time to focus on it.
Right.
But I was struggling a lot at first with lyrics, which I find to be the hardest part,
Okay.
and
Interesting.
also one of the more important parts because that's what people are really paying attention to. So I've definitely worked on lyrics, whether it's going to my English teacher and saying, "Hey, I'm trying to write this song. Could you help me with some lyrics?" Or whether it's just practicing writing poetry, which I really have to learn and work on.
Well, it comes with time. I'll tell you that. Like with myself, songwriting, I'm 41 now. I started songwriting, I would say 17, 18, started taking it more seriously, more confident at 19. So at that point, I was in university, and where I'm going with that is English, philosophy, those type of classes, and where poetry came out. Now, I'll tell you straight up, bottom line is poetry will definitely help. That's how not just myself speaking that, many musicians will say that, is that poetry will help you transform lyrics, or poetry, I should say, into lyrics. And shout out to Mihao Sako, a friend of mine from college, who taught me that, and taught me that there is a path through poetry, through songwriting. And to this day, I hold him accountable for showing me that, and give him all the credit in the world. And I pass that knowledge on to you as well, as a reminder that, absolutely, poetry and songwriting go hand in hand. It's just about a matter of making that jump between the two. And you'll figure it out. I'll leave it at that. That's great that you're already looking into that. There's really no timestamp on it, but the fact you know about it now is super fantastic. So just wanted to add that in as well. Now, with the album, Basement, how excited and or nervous were you when it came out? Just waiting for the connection here, GMH. Should be back right away. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll say that in the meantime. RoseNthorn Talk, episode 8, talking with GMH Rocks. And how excited and or nervous were you for the album when it came out, Basement?
Sorry, you just froze for a second.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, likewise. I was saying, how excited and or nervous were you when the album came out?
A little bit of both. I was super excited. I just couldn't stop telling people about it. I would send posts to people literally every day. That's all I would do, because I just wanted people to know that, hey, GMH Rocks is releasing something. My main goal was to get something for people to start listening to, and so that when I perform live in the future, they're like, hey, I recognize this song. I think it's on his album. So I'm definitely trying to, I was definitely quite nervous because there were some songs that I weren't 100% sure about.
Any reason why you weren't sure about them when you say that?
There were just, I guess I needed to hear from other people what they thought, and once I heard from other people and they're like for example, so funny, like, you know, Gabe Polishon?
Yes, I do. He was on the podcast a few episodes ago. So shout out to Gabe.
So he's actually a swimming teacher for my mom as well. That's how I met him. Super cool guy. So so basically I was like, one of the songs, I forget which one right now. I think it was Winnipeg Dreams, maybe. I was like not sure because the song was a little bit messy, but that's sort of how I wanted it. I wanted it to sound like a little bit different from the rest, And then Gabe like messaged me right away, and when I released it, and he's like, I can't stop listening to Winnipeg Dreams. He's like, it's probably like your best song, and I can totally see myself coming out to this song as a boxer when I have a match. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So I definitely love support and stuff like that, and hearing that from other people just definitely builds my confidence a lot. But there were definitely like some songs that I was like, for sure people are gonna like these ones, based on the sound of the recording and the songwriting part.
Exactly. And with the songwriting part, perfect segue. What I don't want to say what can we expect from the next album. What are your thoughts? Some initial thoughts on the direction, if that, of the next album.
So I've been talking to a bunch of different people, and I want to change my sound a tiny bit, to include more influences from punk rock, but also keeping the songwriting in terms of lyrics. So I want to have definitely like very meaningful lyrics with a little bit of a more heavier and modern sound. So I'm definitely going to team up with different people to help me a little bit more with the next one, but I've written a few drum parts because I sat down at the kit the other day, and I'm like, this sounds awesome, and I need to include it in a song however I can. But definitely I want to keep it heavier, but definitely keep it a little bit more melodic.
With just a little bit of advice, you might want to sit down with some albums by The Clash or the Ramones. I think that would definitely help your direction.
Yeah.
There's some food for thought there, but yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great that you have a vision of how this is going to evolve, and that's exactly what the question was referring to. I just wanted you to take over with that, and you totally did. You mastered that, because you have to have, as a musician, as you know, you have to have an idea at least of what the next steps are, the next few steps are, and you clearly do. So that's awesome. Now, I'm going to get down to the range of musical influences.
Yes.
What musician have you seen or would like to see that's fascinating to you? Someone that's already out there, established, or getting themselves established, that you'd love to see live.
Like that I've seen live. Okay, so this band hasn't released a lot, but they were big in Canada in the 90s. So do you know the band The Watchmen?
I do, and they're from Winnipeg as well, yeah.
So basically my parents sort of like grew up with them and would go to, like, my dad would go and see them like almost monthly at like what was called the Spectrum, which is now the Pyramid.
Right.
All that kind of stuff. And I started listening to them a lot more. And I really was able to get into some of their earlier stuff. I actually did see them live this year in October. And I got to, because my friend Aaron, his uncle is the lead singer, and he's also cousin with their drummer. I was able to go backstage and meet the entire band, listen to the sound check, all that stuff. I got to go out for lunch with their bassist and singer, and their bassist is also a huge inspiration. I'll talk a little bit about that after.
Sure.
But I just fell in love with they're one of those bands that I like all of their music except for their last album that they released, because that's when their drummer left. Right. But besides that, but he came back. So I just really love listening to them, and I've drawn so much inspiration from them. Also, I also look to a lot of I also take a lot of inspiration from the band Green Day. Okay. In terms of performing and songwriting. So I would definitely love to see them in the future. I haven't got a chance to see them yet. Right. And then there's so many. Of course, the Hip, who unfortunately are no longer together. I got into them after Downey passing. Yeah. But I watched I would sit and literally watch all their live concerts that I could find, and their songwriting and people also love their songwriting, but their live, how they perform live is just, I find, very amazing, and I can take a lot through that. So there's so many, and also listening to like the '90s Canadian rock too,
Yeah.
like the Crash Test Dummies, and also some more pop bands, like Alanis Morissette.
Wow.
All
One of my
there's
faves.
so
Yeah.
many, but
Yeah,
I
it is.
also, yeah.
Oh, that's
Uh,
fantastic. They're great. That's great that there's such variety on both
yeah,
sides of the border and across the world as well that you listen to.
yeah,
And you don't seem starstruck at all when you do meet other musicians. Most musicians don't if they're well rooted in believing in themselves. It's just about sharing stories with other musicians, i.e.,
yeah,
the Watchmen and whomever else you meet along your journey here. So that's
yeah.
fantastic. I was going to ask as well now with knowing music since a baby, literally, figuratively, are there plans in the future to get any type of music degrees to teach others as well?
Um, I'm not so sure.
Okay.
It depends where music really takes me.
Right.
I definitely think I'll be playing music forever, but whether it's as I'm older, um, working like a full-time job and then
Yeah.
playing, and then releasing an album every few years, if it's that, then I guess I'm okay with that as long as I have music with me. But
Okay.
yeah, I definitely offer advice to friends who are thinking about trying music. Um, I definitely believe in professional training. So I can definitely see myself doing that. Um, whether it's professionally or just giving a few guitar lessons.
Right.
I can definitely see myself. It's a possibility, but I'm not so sure. I definitely want to focus on my music, but I'm always open to advice, to giving
Absolutely. It's
advice.
a great attitude to have. Now, Talk and Rock is your podcast. Tell us how long
Yeah.
you've been doing that for and what your plans are with it for the future.
So I think I have 11 episodes, so about 11 or 12 weeks.
Nice.
So it started, the first two episodes were me talking about music, and tours and I guess rock bands and stuff. And then what happened was I reached out to a friend. I think it was Joaquim actually, because that's when his band just released their EP. So I reached out and I'm like, hey, I want to try interviewing. Would you
Right.
be open to that? And he was like, oh, for sure. So then I interviewed him and it went well. And then I started reaching out to bigger names. So Ken Tizard from The Watchmen,
Nice.
I was able to get him on an episode, which was
Excellent.
so amazing because I got to hear all the band's stories.
Right.
Um, I also got the lead singer from the band Texas King, which
Oh,
was also
wow.
cool because they just wrapped up a tour with Big Wreck, and they were opening for them. And it's just getting. I also have got most of the musicians are local musicians,
Right.
but some of them are actually international. International. I
Yeah.
haven't published the interview or done it yet, but I have. I'm interviewing the singer from the Swedish band Enforcer.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so I just keep on reaching out to people, anybody that's involved with music, or even some people who aren't involved with music. I'll ask them questions about music and their opinions,
Yes.
and I just like my advice to anybody who wants to try this. Just keep on reaching out. Um, and I also talk, like, I have different parts. So, for example, I have the song of the podcast, where I talk about a specific song, and then I'll normally wrap it up, or sometimes I'll tell a story about an album by like a band that I enjoy, or
Right.
talk about concerts. So it's just definitely like taking what I like to talk about and just putting it on a website so that people can listen to it.
Absolutely. I feel the same. I know where you're coming from with that. Now, what is the most important message you have to get across to your audience right now with your music?
With my music,
Mhm.
um, oh, that's a hard one. So definitely, I want to show with my music that um, I am really here to do my music for fun, to entertain people, and for my enjoyment. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. So I just want to inspire people and show them that um, kids can be musicians, especially in Winnipeg, and to never be afraid to, ask for advice and um, just keep on reaching out because there's so many connections in Winnipeg that things can happen. Like for example, a first show, or your first single or song that you record.
Right.
And if you want to start playing music, I just recommend practice, 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 practice. And eventually it will turn into practicing to playing music for fun. And I just find it so fun, and it's definitely helped me with so many. It's definitely just, I just love everything about music, and it's one of those things that everybody can sort of relate to because almost everybody listens to music. So yeah.
Absolutely. Now we're going to finish off the podcast with the 7. So 7 questions I have for you. I'm going to get right at it. So collabs, something you would consider in the future.
A collab with somebody in the future?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm open to anything, but I definitely like to tour with musicians, or like perform with musicians, whether that's doing a show with their group, right, or just playing with them personally. So yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Next instrument you want to learn to play. I think we touched base with it again, but were there any other instruments? Let me rephrase the question at this point.
I'm not sure. I just want to experiment and literally learn as many as I can to build my musical repertoire. Nothing right now, but next time I go to a music store, I'm sure there will be.
Great. That's still a great answer. I love it. Ice skating or rollerblading?
Ice skating because I'm a hockey player.
Nice.
So yes.
Okay. Metallica or Black Sabbath? Ooh.
Oh God, that's that question.
I knew it.
Okay,
Wanted that one to stump you.
Those are literally 2 of my favorite bands.
I know.
So Black Sabbath is literally like the most inspirational band for me of all time.
Right.
Because I love every part of them. They're from their drummer Bill Ward to Geezer Butler with his insane bass shredding,
yeah,
and then Tony Iommi and Ozzy Osbourne. Oh my God. And then we're looking at Metallica. I've seen them both live, actually, because I saw Black Sabbath was my first concert, although I only stayed for like 3 songs. But because I was young, but
yeah,
I'm going to have to go with Black Sabbath.
All right.
In the future, it's going to probably end up being Metallica based on that. I probably see myself seeing Metallica live again and stuff, but for now, Black Sabbath.
Excellent. You're on a deserted island. You can only have one album. What album would it be?
Album? Oh, okay. McLaren Furnace Room by The Watchmen.
Wow, there you go. Nice. Least favorite subject in school?
Normally I'm not really sure, but this year was math because I had a bad teacher, but that's all.
Okay. And last question, will you be back on RoseNthorn Talk in the future?
Sure. I mean,
awesome.
if you whenever, just reach out, and I would love to come
Thank
back
you.
on.
You are inspiring. It's not just because of your age, because you inspire all age categories. You are my youngest guest, but just as mature of any guest that's been on there. Your musical knowledge is, I have to say, incomparable, especially at the stage of where you're learning right now, how much you know and already know. I'm so grateful that RoseNthorn Talk was a pit stop on what's going to be a long and storied career for you. Reach out to me anytime if you ever want to collab or you need advice, and vice versa. I will to you as well. The quick story is that GMH reached out to me and asked to be on the show, and we have a mutual friend. We hadn't met each other until today, even though we've talked like we've known each other for years. It goes beyond musicianship, I'm trying to say. It's just about compatibility and understanding. We're here both as musicians to expand knowledge to our audiences. And I love my audience always for watching, and I'm very grateful that your audience tuned in today as well when I saw the names come up. And moving forward, that's what it's about, building each other up. That's always been my credo, and I'm glad I met someone else that's of the same cloth and thinking in the same mentality. So last but not least, for you yourself, shout outs, social media, please let us know about where we can find your album, your music, your videos, and then any shout outs.
Okay, so you can find my album under GMH Rocks on everywhere, except if you want to see stuff like profile photos and more information about me, I definitely recommend visiting me on Apple Music or Spotify. And also, here's something I want to say. My song Broken Pieces on Spotify, we're trying to get it to 1,000 streams because we're so close. Nice. So I really appreciate you guys listening to the album, but I definitely got my most...
And while we're waiting for the connection, thanks everybody for always watching. I love you all for it. And we're just finishing up here with GMH. She's just giving shout outs for his social media and such. So we'll wait a few seconds here for him to come back in. And then
Sorry, you froze. Oh, yeah.
That's all good.
Sorry.
That's okay. It happens. Technology.
I'm almost...
So you're trying to reach 1,000 and you're very close, and we'd like us all to take a look at that on the streams, right?
Yeah, so I'm most active on Instagram almost all the time. So feel free to DM me, and my account's private right now, but there'll definitely be a public account probably coming in the future.
Excellent.
You can also find me you can also find a lot about me through my my Linktree, which is in my Instagram bio. And that has the link to my website and all that stuff. So just let me know. And also, something that I've been asking people, if you have any ideas of musicians who I should reach out to for an interview on my podcast, feel free to DM me about that too.
Excellent. You got it all together, my man. It's awesome to see, and we will talk again in the future. GMH Rocks with our guest on episode 8 of RoseNthorn Talk. This will be replaying on my Instagram as a post momentarily, and it will be on my YouTube channel, Aaron Marshall Clark, later on this evening. GMH Rocks, thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay, everybody, have a great day, including you, GMH, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Aaron.